everyone. We are excited at the Consortium University to have Brett with us. He's going to talk a little bit about where decommissioning office technology and how a dealership can create ROI from that, really add additional revenue, as well as much more cyber secure in the way that they deal with their clients' assets. So, Brett, thank you. I'd love to talk a little bit first about how the Arcoa Group works with the imaging channel.
Sure. We were one of the early joiners, I guess, of the consortium back when that kind of came back around a few years ago. And it was a good move for us. There are two parts to our business. There's Midwest Copier Exchange, which buys and sells off-lease and used copiers. And then the Arcoa side is centered around electronics recycling. And so it made sense for us to put a program together to offer copier dealers to help their customers with their old IT equipment. So that's kind of where we saw the value and the fit and the connection into the imaging channel.
Yes, and so when you're talking about cybersecurity, which is one of the things the dealership, I'm sure, wants to make sure that they are providing to their customers in regaining some of those technology assets before that they're, taken out of the market completely. How does that process work? What does a dealership need to pay attention to?
Yeah. So, I always say one of the very easy ways to get into this is just to ask your customers, what are you doing with your old IT equipment? So that's the easy question to sort of open the door. And really what you're looking for is how old is their equipment? How often do they refresh their computers and IT equipment? If they hang on to things until there is no value left in it, or basically that equipment dies, we're still a good avenue to make sure that stuff is properly recycled. But if they refresh every 3 to 4 years, there's typically value left in that equipment. And that's where we can take a look at what do you have. As long as we know the specifics of the equipment, then we can provide sort of an estimate on the resale value of that equipment. And so that can work one of two ways. Either we can work directly with the copier dealer and do the revenue share with them, and they can determine how they want to use those funds with the customer, or we can work directly with the customer. We've done it both ways. So value in the equipment. And then the other important piece, you talked about cybersecurity. Everyone thinks about cybersecurity in terms of live data, right? We hear about data breaches all the time on live data. What you don't hear about as often, but it happens, is data breaches on data that is sitting on old equipment that's been decommissioned. Because you might resell that computer, it may end up in another country, and that data might be sitting on there, and there could be a breach. So it is important that companies be thinking about how to ensure that their data is properly destroyed on that equipment that's coming out. So for us, we are a NAID AAA certified recycler. So that means that we're third-party audited every year. It ensures that the data is properly destroyed. We offer 100% data destruction on any of those assets.
I have 2 points from that. First of all, it seems like maybe during the partnership review, sales executives, sort of at the end of the cycle of that copier lease, or when they're going to be upgrading, this should be part of that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about a couple of things. One is think about your larger customers. It's not that we can't serve 5, 10, 15, 20 people offices, but think about your larger customers. Also be thinking about, when you think about data security, think about high compliance industries. Think about financial, think about healthcare, think about legal, even education is a good market for us. So any of those are good markets to focus on to really sell the services side of what we do, which is auditing and destroying hard drives and auditing the equipment as well.
Would our core group go to a dealer, maybe even like in a webinar that when they're their customers of yours, and maybe educate the sales executives on the questions to ask? Because ultimately, this training today is about driving additional profit and also up-leveling customer care for the imaging channel. So do you give some of those heads ups on, hey, if it's education, talk about FERPA, COPA, SIPA, HIPAA, or, when you're talking to the hospital, we know that HIPAA compliance means control of that information. Are you helping them with that?
Yeah, we provide sort of upfront training once we have an agreement with the dealer in place.
Yeah.
To do a high-level overview of those buzzwords that you're talking about, or those industry-specific data regulations that people have to be concerned about. But we don't expect the sales reps to know everything, right? I think the key is to uncover an opportunity and then bring us in as quickly as possible to help support the sales rep in that effort. We also like to provide marketing materials that, reps can utilize to drip on their customers, right? Because the thing
Sure.
is this is a very transactional business by and large. So unless someone has an immediate need, unless they just refreshed or they've got equipment sitting in a room somewhere, if they don't have that immediate need, it's hard to keep that front of mind for customers. So yes, it's a tool in your toolbox, but it needs a lot of touches to get in front of people from a timing standpoint. So when they have a need, they think of you.
And just because I'm outside the industry, meaning I'm not a copier dealership, would this make sense then if you're going to come into a dealership and I mean a customer and say, hey, we can buy back some of your technology that's old, and then they would be able to incorporate some of the revenue that they might be getting from you as the profit in their deal? Is that how it works?
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a significant opportunity. And I think a differentiator for Arcoa too is that we do play in both spaces. So not only just computers and servers and IT equipment, but printers and copiers as well.
Hmm.
Typically, like those dealers have the relationships with those people, and they typically handle the IT equipment as well. So that's where we get excited because we're extending our sort of sales force out into the copier dealer sales reps because they have
Yeah.
relationships and they're in there all the time.
That's right. And do the dealers then give some of that money to the rep? Is that part of the commission cycle? Do you see? Is that how it works usually?
We have a SPIF program, so we do provide a SPIF to the reps for bringing opportunities to
Oh,
us.
okay, great.
It's based off of the gross profit of the deal. There's kind of this whole grid and structure to it. But short answer is yes, the larger the deal, the larger the SPIF, right? It can be anywhere from $100 to 1,000 or more, depending on how big the opportunity
Sure.
is. And then also we do revenue share back with the dealer themselves.
Oh,
So
great.
it's a win-win for both the
Yeah,
rep
sounds like
and
it.
the dealer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from an educational standpoint, the reason for this interview today is that we want to, at the Consortium University, help you make more money. And this seems to be a pretty easy way to do that. You talked about e-waste disposal. Would you go into some detail on that?
Yeah, e-waste is more specific around if you've got peripherals, monitors, keyboards, mice, all of the stuff that really doesn't have value but needs to be recycled properly, we
Hmm,
also do that. Again, a differentiator. Not all recyclers like us will take everything. They just want the stuff that has value that they can
sure.
resell. So we will take everything, anything from UPS batteries to
Wow.
um, so a lot of the computers, if they don't have value, we break it down to the component level, whether with the plastic and the circuit boards, and there's still value in that from a downstream standpoint.
And from a logistics standpoint, it's anybody in the country you can work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, a differentiator, we have our own trucks. So through Midwest Copier Exchange and Arcoa, we are all over the country at any
Hmm,
point in time. So obviously it's helpful if we can kind of schedule and navigate based off of where we're
certainly.
going to be. But yeah, we service all over the country.
That's excellent. And you talk about maximizing the ROI of decommissioned office technology. So, from an educational standpoint, how does a dealer get involved with you? What are they doing to make sure that they make this happen? We want them to use your code group, but in general, how would this help the dealership?
Yeah, I think, I always look at it as another tool in your toolbox, right? So as long as you have in your mind just to ask the question, what are you doing with your old IT equipment? The opportunity with the customer is to educate them on the fact that, listen, you can run your equipment into the ground, but understand if you refresh in a 3 to 4 year cycle, there's still significant value in that equipment that you can put towards new hardware. So it's educating and helping customers understand that from a productivity standpoint and from residual value, it makes more sense to refresh more often than to run stuff into the ground.
Yeah, for sure. Sort of
Yeah,
like your car, right? You don't run that into the ground. You at least you get a new one in 3 years because it becomes. Yeah, I'm with you.
yeah.
So we're talking about the future. Is there anything changing that you see in the next 5 years in terms of IT asset disposition?
It's a growing industry. I mean, I think businesses are starting to pay more attention from a data security standpoint, from a sustainability standpoint. We didn't really touch on that, but there is the whole idea around sustainability.
Hmm,
Uh, ESG is a buzzword that businesses are still starting to build programs around. And all of that can come into play when you look at partnering with someone who is certified and is making sure that nothing is ending up in a landfill. Technology is continuing to change quickly, which means people are changing out their hardware more and more, right? So it's staggering the amount of material or assets out there that does still just go into a landfill, or people are
Sure.
throwing in a dumpster because they're not caring about it. So it is on us as an industry to help educate, so that, from a sustainability standpoint, we're not, polluting the environment.
And just because I do prospecting, I'm thinking that maybe sustainability officers, which are easy folks to look up, Google sustainability officers, space test space, whatever name of the larger company is, those
Yeah.
would be people that this conversation would have a lot of impact with.
Yes. Yeah, it's certainly a foot in the door that they are going to be interested, and hopefully then they'll bring in the IT person
Right.
to partner with that. And that's one of the things, is that it's a variety of titles that we are looking to connect with. Typically, it's an IT manager, an IT director, but sometimes, like, if a business has a help desk, it might be the help desk manager. There's a lot of variety of titles that can be handling this, but for the dealer, typically who they're working with for copiers and printers either is involved or is that person. So there is a direct connection.
And have you seen the dealers that you're working with? This has been, and I mean, I guess I'm leading the witness here, but has it been a help in closing the deal of taking over somebody's old equipment, or even in that relationship going forward? Because if they have this as one of the additional solutions offerings, it's less that the customer has to deal with, right?
Yeah, and I think, especially for those dealers who have managed IT, if you are in the buying hardware for customers, and if you're in a
Mm,
bid situation, right,
mm.
against someone else for a new customer in the managed IT space, look at what you can offer from a residual value in the equipment if it comes back to us to put against that deal that
Yep.
you've presented, right? So that's a differentiator for the copier dealer in those situations.
That's a big takeaway from me from our discussion today. The
Yeah,
fact that, because in the large, or a school district or a large hospital system, for
yeah,
example, if you're bidding this work, we now have a way to lower the cost to the customer to grab it, but not lower our profits. That's the Arcoa group, right?
absolutely. You
Yeah,
just summed it
very
up.
cool. That's my job. Put everything in a little nutshell. Great. How does a dealer get involved with you? What would be the next step, either from just a question from education standpoint or an engagement? How does that happen?
Yeah, and I think, another sort of great thing about this program, there's no capital investment, right? We are your partner. We are the ones to do the heavy lift for you. It's just on you to open the door for us. So if you uncover an opportunity, or if you simply want to learn more, reach out to me directly through the consortium. We'll have my contact information available. I'm happy to have conversations with you. We work with a good number of copier dealers already who I think see value in what we're doing and partnering with them on. So we'd love to get more of you.
So, to sort of close up this training, use the consortium university for learning about all kinds of things. Use our COA group if you're looking to add revenue and profits for every deal that you take over or every upgrade that you do. Seems to make perfect sense to me.
Yeah, that's
All right,
it.
great. Thanks very much. I think this is exciting and certainly will help the imaging channel.
Thanks, Kate. Appreciate the opportunity.
Bye bye.